I'm Jared Fry, General Manager of Medina TV.
Hi, and I'm Jacqueline Rinksmeyer, Executive Director of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. The mission of the Chamber of Commerce is to serve our member investors and promote business interests through economic development, business advocacy, and member services, which benefits the Greater Medina community. The Chamber is funded by voluntary membership from the business community. It is a not-for-profit, nonpartisan business organization, and we do not receive tax dollars to operate the organization. The Chamber does not endorse candidates, but strives to educate the voters on both the candidates and the issues. And we are pleased to partner with Medina TV to bring these interviews to you. This program would not be possible without this collaboration. So thank you to our interviewer, Jared Fry, and our producer, Matt Tomick.
And as always, the views expressed in these interviews do not necessarily reflect those of Medina TV or the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. We thank you for tuning in to the 2022 Candidates Forum and remind you to vote on November 8th. Joining us now in studio is candidate for the Court of Appeals 9th District, and that's Amber Crowe. Amber, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure to have you. And why don't you start off and just tell the viewers and the voters a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, first and foremost, my name is Amber Crowe. I am currently running for the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals, and I am a magistrate in Summit County Juvenile Court. Born and raised in Summit County, Northeast Ohio is my stomping grounds. I am a double zip, so University of Akron for undergrad as well as law school, and then straight out of law school, prosecutor, defense attorney, guardian ad litem, mediator, magistrate, and now running for the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals.
Oh, that's great. We're glad to have you being part of the political process. Why don't you start off first for the viewers and the voters that may not know, what exactly does the 9th District Court of Appeals do?
So the 9th District Court of Appeals, the easiest, I think, way to explain it, although they do have the ability to take original actions for certain cases, it's really a court that looks at a trial court's decision to make sure that the person who is unhappy with the final decision got a fair trial and that their constitutional rights were protected. So an appellate court, the 9th District, covers Summit, Wayne, Lorain, and Medina counties. So what I've been telling folks is if you are unhappy with the trial court's final decision, you have the right to appeal to the Ohio 9th District if you reside in one of those counties. So we're not there to retry cases, relitigate cases. We look to see, was there an error or mistake made at the trial court level, essentially. Obviously there are other little nuances there, but that's the easiest way I think people can really understand what the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals does, and that, the big impact that an appellate court can have.
So what skills do you feel that you bring to the office?
So like I said earlier, I have been a prosecutor. So not only have I been a prosecutor, but I was a child protection as well as felony prosecutor. I have done defense work, so criminal defense, family defense, just general kind of litigation. I've helped people both in and outside of the courtroom. I've been a mediator, a guardian ad litem, and for those who might not know what a guardian ad litem is, that is an attorney who is appointed as an advocate for children in a courtroom who have been alleged to have been abused, neglected, and or dependent. I've also worked with victims of human trafficking as part of the specialized docket in Summit County, the Restore Court. So I've done that work. I've also chaired my Board of Zoning Appeals in my hometown city of New Franklin, Ohio. I've been a mediator, so I've mediated cases involving, custody disputes, child support, visitation. I've been a magistrate in both the Akron Municipal Court as well as the Summit County Juvenile Court. And, all of that together combined allows me to look at cases from all sides of the spectrum, all different sides, all across the spectrum. So if a prosecution case, I know what to look for. A defense case, I know what to look for. If it's an administrative decision, because of my BZA experience, I know what to look for. There's nothing too small that doesn't deserve my attention, and nothing too big that I haven't done. So I really feel like that breadth and that diverse experience will give me a really, really good eye and ability to analyze things that would come up to the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals.
Okay. Now, in terms of the judicial system, and I guess looking at the 9th District what do you think are the biggest obstacles that face the judicial branch or the judicial system right now?
I think one of the biggest just opposition or the obstacles are people don't really know what the Ohio 9th District is, or really any intermediate court of appeals. So we have 12 in Ohio, and they don't understand that you can go there if you're unhappy with your decision as of right. Whereas the Ohio Supreme Court, for example, only takes X amount of percentage on discretionary appeal. I believe that's up from about 3 to 5% to close to 10% now. So your intermediate state courts take all appeals of right. And so it's really, really important for people to know what the courts do and who their judges are, because who your judges are going to impact, things at the trial court level, because something decided, whether it's reversed or affirmed in the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals, will then affect the trial courts in Summit, Wayne, Lorain, and Medina counties. And so I think just kind of demystifying or debunking what the courts do is one of the biggest obstacles. I'm a real big advocate for courts in the communities, and so for people getting to know what the courts do, making courts accessible, and making sure that people understand who their judiciary is.
Mm-hmm. And I think being part of the judicial branch and being a judge requires a lot of leadership. And I guess what kind of leadership skills do you bring to the office?
So I'm really proud of, I think, my leadership style. I'm one of those people, I like to build up my team around me. It's really important to have open communication, be honest, and we're not, breaking people down, we're building people up. So actually in 2021, I was recognized as one of the 30 for the future by the Greater Akron Chamber for the City of Akron based upon my community involvement, my professional history, my volunteer work, and things like that. It's very, very important to be able to work as part of a team, but also to take charge when necessary. That's what I like to do, even in my courtroom right now. We work with a lot of families who are in need or in crisis. Nobody wakes up and says, hey, I want to come to court today, right? So it's really important to make sure that you've got those skills where you can listen and respond, but also ask questions. And so that's how I am. I really like to communicate effectively with my team and take charge and ownership when the time calls for it.
Now, as you look at leadership in that role, you could be facing, in the election process right now, 3 out of the 5 seats for the 9th District Court of Appeals are up for election. How important is that leadership role in having possibly 3 new people in those seats, or some variation of that? How important is that leadership, and what could you bring to that?
I think that the leadership is going to be really, really important, because it's going to take somebody that's able to be a leader but also be part of a team. Because for example, when a case is being argued in front of the 9th District Court of Appeals, you're part of a 3-panel set of judges. So although there are 5 on the court, any case up before the court is decided by the 3 judges on the court. So you have to be able to be confident enough in yourself and your experience and your practice to ask questions and make sure that you're not being necessarily swayed by your colleagues if you're uncomfortable with something. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're able to have those conversations and those open discussions. And so I think it's going to be important finding somebody who is, confident enough in their abilities to hold their own, but also at the same time that can work really, really well as part of a team.
And how do you handle of course, the different government entities all have their different issues right now come election time. In the judicial side, handling 4 different counties, and a lot of times maybe people not knowing the court process. Have you seen, what you've seen so far, the constituents that you've spoken to, is it all kind of the same questions they all have between the 4 counties? Is there differing of opinions regarding the court system, or what have been your experiences so far as you deal with constituents in these counties?
So I really do. I think it's been a lot of the same questions across the board, which makes me feel really good about one of the platforms upon which I've been running, which is educating, our counties about what this court does and is. I remember being in practice and explaining to, other attorneys about, talking through appeals with them and things like that. So it's really been straight across the board. We don't know what the appellate court does, or we didn't know X, Y, and Z. There are attorneys who don't know who sits on the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals. I was going to say that could apply to any of our 12 districts, but if they don't know, how do we expect our constituents to know? And that's why I think that engagement piece is crucial. And I'm really, really committed to making sure that people get to know me, my background, what I stand for, as part of this election process.
Now, is there something in that background and the experience that you've just spoken about throughout this interview, what kind of sets you apart from the other candidates?
I do feel like it's my experience. I do think that experience is so critical for an appellate court judge, because they're getting all sorts of different decisions or, cases that are going to be coming before them, whether it's a criminal case, a custody case, a divorce, it can be, an estate case. My experience has led me to all different courts. So I've practiced in municipal courts, courts of common pleas, domestic relations, juvenile court. I've been, done adoption cases in probate court. So I think that my just diversity and my experience will set me apart. But I think it's also important to look at how people are in their personal lives and their personal background, because although we're all bound to, and we take an oath to uphold the law, how we approach people, with respect and dignity. That's how I was brought up. I think that's also a really important piece as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. We're speaking with Amber Crowe, one of the candidates for the Court of Appeals, the 9th District, and I know you've been very gracious in taking your time to answer my questions I've had for you, and I appreciate that. I'm sure the viewers do as well, but I want to give you a moment that if there's anything that you would like to discuss that maybe I missed, I want to give you a chance and opportunity to speak to those voters, so I'll turn the mic over to you now.
Well, I appreciate that, and I, again, want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you, explain a little bit about my view of the 9th District and how important this election is. I think what I would like people to know is I am a true public servant at heart. I've prosecuted those really, really tough cases. I have defended cases, standing next to people in some of the worst times of their lives, sitting through on the other side of glass while one of my clients was, interviewed by the FBI. I've done appeals as a magistrate, as a mediator. I've even filled in as bailiff during COVID, right? There's nothing too small for me to tackle, and I really want people to concentrate on this year and realize that your judiciary matters. Judicial votes count and they matter, and I'm a public servant, and it is time for us to return the courts to the people. I want to prioritize people and their needs in the courtroom while also making sure that people are receiving those well-analyzed decisions in the most expeditious manner possible, because what we do in the courtroom really does have an impact on the everyday lives of the people we serve. And I want the voters to know that in November, if they let's go vote Crowe, that will not be taken for granted.
Great. Well, thank you. Again, that's Amber Crowe, candidate for Court of Appeals of the 9th District. Again, thank you for stepping up and being part of the political process, and I want to wish you the best of luck this November.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys letting me be here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.